Having completed the digestion and absorption of the carbohydrates and the lipids in the previous videos, now let's understand the digestion and absorption of the proteins in this video. Imagine you just had a meal rich in proteins, maybe eggs, chicken, dal, or whatever you like. Usually around 50 to 75 grams of proteins per day from the diet is obtained. But that's not the only source of protein. Even without eating, your body is constantly breaking down and recycling its own proteins. This is called as endogenous proteins, which is around 300 to 400 grams per day of turnover. So basically, your body is always handling proteins both from outside and inside. Before the enzymes can act, the proteins need to be made easier to digest. First, the cooking, then chewing. Both of these processes don't digest the proteins, but they prepare them. What do you mean by prepare? They convert the native protein, which is tightly folded and complex, into a more relaxed open structure, the denatured protein, the denatured form. This is called as denaturation. So the native protein is equal to tightly folded form, and the denatured protein is the unfolded form. When the proteins unfold, their internal peptide bonds become exposed. What happens because of that? The importance of this exposure of the internal peptide bonds lies in that the enzymes can act only on the accessible peptide bonds. So the denaturation helps in making the proteins easier for the enzymes to act. The denatured or the unfolded proteins enter the stomach where the real digestion begins. The parietal cells of the stomach secrete hydrochloric acid, which lowers the pH of the stomach to 2 and denatures the proteins further and activates the enzymes. Pepsin is secreted in its inactivated form pepsinogen, which is converted to pepsin. The pepsin by the action of hydrochloric acid. Then what is the function of pepsin? The function of pepsin is it acts as an endopeptidase. It means it cuts the internal peptide bonds but not the ends. It has a specificity, that is, it prefers the peptide bonds near phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, and methionine. What happens because of that? We get large polypeptides, proteoses and peptones. In the infants, there is an additional enzyme called as chymosin, renin or chymosin. This enzyme acts on the milk protein casein and converts it into paracasein, leading to milk curdling. What is the purpose of curdling? The curdling slows down the gastric emptying and improves the digestion in the infants. But this enzyme chymosin or renin is absent in the adults. The partially digested proteins in the stomach called as chyme enters into the duodenum. The moment the chyme enters the small intestine, two key hormones, cholecystokinin and the pancreozymin, they stimulate the pancreas, releasing the digestive enzymes. But all enzymes are released in inactive forms called as zymogens to prevent the auto-digestion of the pancreas. First, the trypsinogen is released, and the trypsinogen is activated by the enzyme enterokinase present on the intestinal brush border to trypsin. Once the trypsin is formed, it becomes a master activator. It activates chymotrypsinogen to chymotrypsin, proelastases to elastase, and procarboxypeptidase to carboxypeptidase. Depending on the enzyme's action, these enzymes, these pancreatic enzymes, are of two types. They are endopeptidases and the exopeptidases. The endopeptidases, they break the internal peptide bonds. The trypsin cuts after the arginine and lysine, whereas the chymotrypsin cuts after the aromatic amino acids, and elastase acts on small neutral amino acids. The result is the production of smaller peptides. The second type of the enzymes already discussed, that is the exopeptidases. They break the proteins at their ends. Carboxypeptidases removes the amino acids from the C-terminal end, resulting in dipeptides and tripeptides along with the free amino acids. So the end result of this phase, that is a pancreatic digestion phase, is that large polypeptides from the stomach are broken down into small peptides and amino acids. Now we are in the final stage of the protein digestion, that is at the intestinal brush border. From the pancreatic digestion, the proteins have already been broken down into small peptides, dipeptides and tripeptides, but still not into the full amino acids. Remember, only the amino acids can be efficiently absorbed. The brush border of the intestinal mucosa are basically enzyme-rich surfaces present on the intestinal cells. And here the final digestion happens. First enzyme is the aminopeptidase. It removes the amino acids from the N-terminal end of the peptides. Second is the proline aminopeptidase. It acts only on the peptides containing the proline. Then you have the dipeptidases and tripeptidases. These dipeptidases and tripeptidases break the respective dipeptides and tripeptides respectively. The final outcome is that everything is converted into free amino acids. Now these amino acids, the absorbable form of the proteins, are ready for the absorption. So far, the proteins have been completely broken down into free amino acids along with small amount of dipeptides and tripeptides. The absorption mainly occurs in the small intestine, especially in the enterocytes. And very importantly, this absorption is an energy dependent process. Amino acids are absorbed via the sodium dependent symport system. So what happens is sodium moves into the cell, amino acids comes along with it. That means just like our SGLT1, where the glucose and galactose come along with the sodium. This movement is driven by the sodium gradient, which is maintained by the sodium potassium ATPase pump on the basolateral side. So indirectly ATP is required. Now let's talk about the transporters. We have talked about what form of transport. Now what are the type of transporters or carriers? There are 5 types of carriers that are helpful in the transport of the amino acids. First is the neutral amino acid carrier. Then you have basic amino acid carrier, then amino acid glycine carrier, acidic amino acid carrier, and finally beta amino acid carrier. Each of these carriers carry the respective amino acids like the name suggests. Now finally, let's see how the absorption occurs. In step 1, most of the proteins are absorbed as free amino acids and some as dipeptides and tripeptides from the lumen into the enterocyte. Inside the enterocyte, the dipeptides and tripeptides are broken down into amino acids. Now in the step 3, these amino acids exit the enterocytes and enter into the portal circulation, and from there they go into the liver. If you have seen the video on the lipids digestion and absorption, there also we have learnt about a special pathway for the short chain fatty acids and medium chain fatty acids. Likewise, we have for the proteins, we have a special pathway called as Meister cycle, also called as γ-glutamyl cycle. It is not a main pathway, but it is very important for exams and viva. So what is its function? It is mainly used for the transport of neutral amino acids across the intestinal cell membrane. So think of it as an alternative transport mechanism. The most important thing to remember here is the key molecule called as glutathione. This is a tripeptide made up of glutamate, cysteine and glycine. So remember γ-glutamyl cystinyl glycine. Let's understand step by step on how the cycle occurs. The first thing is a neutral amino acid comes near the membrane. It binds with the glutathione with the help of the enzyme γ-glutamyl transferase. The amino acid gets attached to the γ-glutamyl group and the remaining part becomes cystinyl and glycine. Now this γ-glutamyl amino acid complex crosses the membrane and enters the cell. Inside the cell, the amino acid is released. That is, with the enzyme γ-glutamyl cyclotransferase, it breaks down the γ-glutamyl amino acid complex into the free amino acid and 5-oxoproline. Then the enzyme 5-oxoprolinase converts the 5-oxoproline into glutamate with the consumption of 1 ATP. Then the enzyme γ-glutamyl cysteine synthetase converts the glutamate into γ-glutamyl cysteine. Again, 1 more ATP is used. Then finally the enzyme glutathione synthetase will be using 1 more ATP to produce the glutathione. This is how 3 molecules of ATP are used in the synthesis of glutathione. Till now we have seen the proteins have been digested, absorbed and transported into the bloodstream. But what happens next to the amino acids after absorption? The answer lies in something called as amino acid pool. This is a dynamic pool of amino acids in the body, roughly around 100 grams. And where do these amino acids come from? The two main sources, that is the dietary absorption from the gut and the endogenous protein turnover, that is the breakdown of the body proteins. From this amino acid pool, there are three major fates. First is the protein synthesis. This is the most important function. Amino acids are used by ribosomes to synthesize new proteins, which include structural proteins, enzymes and transport proteins. So basically the growth, repair and maintenance functions. Then you have formation of specialized products like heme, hormones like thyroid hormones and neurotransmitters. And final function, final fate, it is the energy production via the deamination. Whenever there is excess amino acid, the body removes the amino group, that is a deamination, mainly in the liver producing the ammonia. As you know, the ammonia is toxic, so it is converted into urea via the urea cycle, and the remaining carbon skeleton enters the TCA cycle producing the ATP. So this is the fate of the amino acids present in the after the absorption. So to summarize, let's see, the protein digestion starts from cooking and chewing, then the gastric digestion, then pancreatic digestion from large peptides into smaller peptides, then you have intestinal digestion completely into breakdown into free amino acids, then they have to be absorbed, intestinal absorption. Then there is a Meister cycle for neutral amino acid transporter, and then finally after they are absorbed, the fate of the free amino acids is that they are synthesized for protein synthesis or for special product synthesis or for energy production. So this is in summary, in short, about the protein digestion and absorption. If this video helped you, like, share and subscribe the channel for more engaging topics. See you in the next one.